She wasn't just a friend, the one he told me not to worry about. What do you do when the person you trust tells you not to worry about the one person you should be worried about? That was the question that haunted me. Imagine this. You're scrolling through your partner's phone late at night, heart pounding, when a single message pops up from her, the one he swore was just a friend. "Miss you already," it reads, with a winking emoji that hits like a gut punch. But that's just the spark. What if I told you this friend had been weaving a web of secrets for months, turning casual coffee runs into midnight confessions? Buckle up, because in the next few minutes, I'm spilling every juicy detail of how I uncovered the truth that shattered my world, and how I turned the tables. You won't believe what happened next.
Hey, story lover. Welcome to the Narrative Hub, Reddit Stories. Believe me, this adventure gets wild, but it's only epic with you. Seriously, you make this possible. Want more stories? Greater adventure? Smash subscribe right now. Smash like. Comment below. Let's go.
3 years. That's how long I believed him. 3 years of building a life on a foundation I thought was solid rock, but was actually quicksand. James was my everything. The man who held me during bad dreams and celebrated my smallest victories like they were lottery wins. He remembered how I took my coffee. He knew which side of the bed I preferred. He could read my moods from across a crowded room, or so I thought. Maybe he was just that good at performing the role of devoted boyfriend. And for 3 years, a third person was in our relationship. I just didn't know it yet. Her name was Kimberly Brown. She was his childhood best friend, the untouchable one, the cool girl I was supposed to admire, the woman with perfect hair, an impressive career, and that effortless confidence that made me feel like I was constantly trying too hard. She was a constant presence, a satellite in our orbit that somehow dictated our gravitational pull. We had girls' nights where she'd give me relationship advice on my relationship with him. She'd say things like, "He just gets stressed with work, you have to give him his space." Or, "James has always been terrible at communicating, you just have to read between the lines." Looking back now, I realize she was managing me, training me to accept his distance, his secrets, his emotional unavailability. She was teaching me how to be a better girlfriend to the man she was sleeping with. The audacity is almost impressive now. It takes a special kind of person to look someone in the eye, sip wine with them, laugh at their jokes, and know the entire time that you're systematically dismantling their life. The red flags were there, of course. They were more like giant, flashing billboards, and I chose to be blind. Her name would light up his phone at 2 a.m. He'd angle the screen away instinctively, a reflex so practiced it seemed natural. "It's just Kimberly," he'd say. "She's a night owl. She gets insomnia and needs someone to talk to." And I'd nod, understanding, because I was that girlfriend, the one who didn't create drama over nothing. During our date nights, a text would make him smile, that secret little smile, the one I thought was reserved for me. His eyes would light up in a way that made my stomach twist, but I'd push it down. When I'd ask who it was, the answer was always the same. "You're being paranoid. She's like a sister to me. Why can't you trust me?" That was his favorite line, the triple threat of gaslighting. It made me question my own sanity, my own gut. That pit in my stomach, I dismissed it as insecurity. The inside jokes between them that would stop the moment I walked into a room. I told myself I was being clingy. The way she'd touch his arm just a little too long, or how he'd light up when talking about something she said, I rationalized it all away. I played the part of the cool girlfriend so well, I think I even convinced myself. I ignored the canceled plans when she needed him. I smiled through the impromptu hangouts that cut our time short. I even defended her when my own friends questioned why she was so involved in our relationship. "She's important to him," I'd say. "I'm secure enough to handle it." But security and denial are two very different things. Until that night, the night of the winking emoji. Now in this dark bedroom, I'm holding James's phone, face illuminated by the screen. He's asleep next to me, breathing peacefully, completely unaware that his entire world is about to implode. The message from Kimberly is stark. "Miss you already," plus a wink emoji. They had been together earlier that evening. He told me he was helping her move some furniture. He came home tired, kissed my forehead, and fell asleep. And now she was texting him this. It wasn't just the words. It was the wink, a digital punctuation mark that detonated 3 years of trust. In that moment, the fog cleared. I wasn't crazy. My instincts had been screaming at me the whole time, and I had put them on mute. Every dismissed concern, every swallowed question, every moment I chose to believe him over myself, it all crystallized into terrible, perfect clarity. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't wake him up. I didn't even move, afraid the slightest sound would break whatever strange spell had given me this glimpse into the truth. A cold, quiet resolve settled over me like frost forming on glass. He'd built an illusion. Now I was going to dismantle it, brick by brick. My investigation started that night, and what I was about to find was so much worse than a few flirty text messages. The first thing I did was check their call logs. Hours. Dozens of hours spent on the phone, mostly after I had gone to bed or before I woke up. 45 minutes here. An hour and 20 minutes there. While I slept, they talked. While I made breakfast, they whispered good morning to each other. The timestamps told a story of a parallel relationship happening in the margins of my life. Then I went deeper, into his deleted files. Most people don't realize that deleted doesn't mean gone. And that's when I found the first piece he forgot to hide. It wasn't a picture. It wasn't a text. It was a voice memo, 3 seconds long. Just 3 seconds that rewrote my entire reality. The way he said her name, it was a caress. Kimberly. Soft, intimate, vulnerable. It was a sound I had never heard him make before, not even with me in our most private moments. It rewired my brain. This wasn't just physical. This was a deep, emotional cavern I had never been allowed into. They had a secret language, a private world, and I was the only one who didn't know it existed. The devil is in the details, and that detail was a gut punch. But I needed more. I needed proof that couldn't be explained away. I needed receipts that would stand up to his inevitable denial, his tactical confusion, his attempt to make me question what I knew to be true. And oh, did I find them. I started with our shared credit card statements, the ones I rarely checked because I trusted him to manage our finances. I scrolled back months, my coffee growing cold beside me as the sun rose outside. And there it was. A charge from a high-end jewelry store from 6 months ago. $347. I remembered that day. He told me he bought his mother a birthday gift, a beautiful silver necklace. I thought it was sweet, watching him carefully choose something meaningful. 2 weeks later at a party, I complimented Kimberly on the gorgeous silver necklace she was wearing, delicate with a small diamond pendant catching the light. She touched it with a secretive smile and said it was a gift. From a secret admirer, she'd said, looking directly at James. They both laughed. I had laughed too, oblivious. It was right in front of my face, and I was too trusting to see it. That was the lock. The next discovery was the stock. I remembered a weekend 2 months ago. He told me he was going on a guy's fishing trip to a remote cabin. No cell service, he'd said. A chance to disconnect. His phone was off for 48 straight hours. I remember feeling proud of him for taking time for himself, for prioritizing his mental health. I'd even packed him snacks for the drive and kissed him goodbye, telling him to have fun with his friends. While searching for an old tax document on his laptop, I found a folder of digital receipts. Buried among Amazon orders and utility bills was a confirmation email, a weekend cabin rental. The dates matched the fishing trip perfectly, but the receipt wasn't for a group of guys. It was for a couple's romantic getaway package, complete with champagne, rose petals, and a late checkout. Paid in full by James Anderson. Ice water filled my veins. The man I loved hadn't just lied. He had meticulously crafted an alternate reality where I didn't exist. This wasn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. This was a strategy. This was a double life, planned and executed with precision. But I still didn't have the barrel. The one thing that would obliterate any lie, any excuse he could possibly invent. I found it in a place so obvious it was genius. His cloud storage, linked to our home computer. It had family photos, vacation albums, pictures of us looking happy. Everything a normal couple would have. But deep inside a folder, nested 3 layers down and cryptically labeled projects, was a single, password-protected photo album. I stared at the password prompt. What would it be? An old pet's name, an anniversary, my birthday. Maybe our song lyrics. I tried them all. Nothing. Each failed attempt felt like another small betrayal, another reminder that I didn't know him as well as I thought. Then a cold, sickening thought slithered into my mind. I typed in her birthday. Kimberly, then the numbers. 0814. August 14th. A date I only knew because once, years ago, James had mentioned needing to buy her a birthday gift. Access granted. The album was titled Us. Not us and Sarah, not the three of us, just us. Like I didn't exist, like I was a technicality to be worked around. The screen showed a rapid, heart-stopping succession of photos. James and Kimberly kissing in front of the cabin from the fishing trip. Kimberly wearing his shirt, the burgundy one I'd bought him for his birthday, making coffee in the cabin's kitchen. Them holding hands on a beach during a work trip he supposedly took alone. Her sleeping in a bed I'd helped him pick out for his solo hotel room. Selfies in cars, restaurants, parks. It was an entire relationship, documented in secret. A whole life I knew nothing about. In 15 seconds, 3 years of my life became a lie. The woman who gave me relationship advice was my replacement. The man I was building a future with had already built another one in the shadows. This wasn't a simple story about a cheater. This was a story about two conspirators, and their shared ambition was a life without me in it. I was the obstacle, the inconvenience, the reason they had to meet in secret. In their story, I was the villain keeping star-crossed lovers apart. And in that moment, all the grief, all the heartbreak, it curdled into something else, something hard and sharp. It became a cold, calculated fury. He had told me not to worry about her, and he was right. I shouldn't have been worried about her. I should have been terrified of him. But I wasn't terrified anymore. I was armed, I had evidence, I had truth, and I had a plan. It was time to turn the tables. For 2 weeks, I was the perfect girlfriend. I smiled. I cooked his favorite meals. I laughed at his jokes. I even suggested we invite Kimberly over for game night and watch them both carefully hide their panic behind enthusiastic agreement. Every moment was a performance, and for the first time in our relationship, I was the one with the script. James thought I was over my paranoid phase. He actually told me he was proud of me for working through my insecurities. The irony was so thick I nearly choked on it. The confrontation couldn't be a tearful screaming match in our living room. That's what they'd expect. That's what they were probably prepared for. They'd deny, minimize, gaslight, and turn it all around on me. Make me the crazy, jealous girlfriend who couldn't handle their innocent friendship. No, it had to be methodical. It had to be public. It had to be a complete and total demolition. 2 weeks later, I threw a dinner party for our 10th anniversary of meeting. I'd sent out beautiful invitations. I'd planned the menu carefully. I'd even bought new candles. I invited all our mutual friends, the ones who had unknowingly been witnesses to this long con. The ones who'd probably noticed things I'd missed and stayed silent out of politeness or uncertainty. James was thrilled. He thought I was planning something romantic, something that would cement our relationship. He kept asking if he could help, and I kept saying I wanted it to be a surprise. He had no idea how right he was. Kimberly, of course, was the guest of honor. When I called to invite her, there was a pause on the line, a moment where she almost said no. But her arrogance won out. She arrived wearing his favorite cologne scent. I could smell it the moment she walked in, a final, arrogant jib I was meant to ignore. She even brought a gift for us, a framed photo of the three of us, smiling. Looking at it now, I can see how staged her smile was, how his arm around me was stiff while his body angled toward her. Dinner was perfect. I'd outdone myself. Laughter, wine, nostalgic stories about how James and I met, about our early dates, about building our life together. James and Kimberly sat across from each other, exchanging those secret smiles, thinking they were so clever. I watched them, my heart beating a steady, rhythmic drum of what was to come. After dessert, I stood up, clinking my glass for a toast. The room went quiet, all eyes turning to me with warm, expectant faces. "I'd like to say a few words," I began, my voice clear and steady. "James, you've always told me how important honesty is. You've also told me not to worry about certain things. You told me I was being paranoid." I clicked a remote in my hand. The smart TV on the wall, which had been displaying a pleasant slideshow of our happy photos, flickered to life. The first image was a screenshot of the credit card statement, the charge for the necklace highlighted in red. Next to it, a photo of Kimberly wearing it, cropped from one of our party pictures. A few people gasped. I saw confusion spreading across faces, then dawning realization. "You told me she's like a sister to you," I continued, my eyes locked on his. His face was draining of color, his wine glass frozen halfway to his lips. Kimberly had gone completely still. The next image appeared on the screen, the receipt for the couple's romantic getaway package. Next to it, a screenshot of his texts telling me he was on a fishing trip with the guys. I didn't stop. I showed them everything. The call logs, time-stamped and highlighted, the text messages I'd managed to recover, screenshots of conversations where they discussed me, how I was too clingy, how I wouldn't understand, how they wished they could just be together without complications. Me, I was the complication. I let them listen to the 3-second voice memo, the sound of his intimate whisper of her name echoing through the silent room. Someone's fork clattered onto their plate. Kimberly looked like a cornered animal, her eyes darting between the door and James, calculating escape routes. James was looking at me with a mixture of shock and fury, his jaw clenched. He opened his mouth to speak, to deny, to explain, to spin. "Wait," I said, holding up a hand. "There's one more thing." For the finale, I projected a screen recording from my phone. Everyone watched in absolute silence as my finger navigated to the hidden folder. They watched as I typed in KIMBERLY0814. They watched as the album titled us opened, and the first photo, the kiss in front of the cabin, filled the 65-inch screen in crystal clear HD. The room was utterly silent. You could have heard a pin drop on the carpet. I'll never forget the look on our friends' faces. Not just pity for me, but disgust for them. Betrayal. Anger. Our friend Michelle had tears streaming down her face. Tom had his arm around his wife, holding her close like he needed to protect what they had. Their social world, their carefully crafted reputations, incinerated in under 5 minutes. I put the remote down on the table with a soft click. "So here's my toast," I said, looking from James's ashen face to Kimberly's horrified one. "To the truth, and to never, ever again ignoring that little voice inside your head." I picked up my purse, walked to the front door, and left them all sitting there in the wreckage of the world they'd built. Behind me, I could hear chairs scraping, voices rising, someone demanding answers. I didn't look back. I spent that night in a hotel, lying in clean sheets, staring at the ceiling, feeling everything and nothing all at once. My phone exploded with messages. Friends offering support. James calling 17 times before I blocked him. Kimberly sent one text, "You're psychotic." I deleted it without responding. What was there to say? The aftermath was messy. James tried to spin the narrative, but too many people had seen the evidence. Kimberly lost several friends from our circle. I heard through the grapevine that they tried to make it work, the relationship they'd fought so hard to hide. It lasted 3 months. Turns out relationships built on deception and betrayal don't have strong foundations. Who knew? I moved out within the week, staying with friends until I found my own place. A small apartment with big windows where I could finally breathe. It was mine, just mine. No shared space, no compromises, no secret lives being lived in the shadows. Here's what I learned. The ones they tell you not to worry about, they are the symptom. The person telling you not to worry, they are the disease. And the moment you stop being a patient and start being the surgeon, that's the moment you get to cut them out for good. Trust your gut. That feeling in your stomach isn't insecurity. It isn't paranoia. It isn't you being crazy or jealous or controlling. It's your intuition, built from thousands of years of evolution, screaming at you that something is wrong. Listen to it. 6 months later, I ran into an old friend at a coffee shop. We got to talking, laughing, and somewhere in the conversation, I realized I hadn't thought about James in days. Not with anger, not with hurt, not at all. That's when I knew I'd truly moved on. The best revenge isn't exposure or confrontation or making them suffer. It's building a life so full, so genuine, so authentically yours, that they become a cautionary tale you sometimes tell at parties. A story that starts with, "You won't believe what happened to me once," and ends with you living proof that you can survive the worst betrayal and come out stronger. I'm not going to lie and say I'm grateful for what happened. I'm not going to spin some nonsense about how it made me who I am today or how everything happens for a reason. What I will say is this: I survived. I trusted myself when it mattered most. And I walked away from people who saw me as an obstacle rather than a person. That dinner party was the last time I saw either of them. And that's exactly how I wanted it. Sometimes the best ending isn't revenge or reconciliation. It's simply removing yourself from people who don't deserve access to your life. And if you're reading this, living with that pit in your stomach, making excuses for behavior you know is wrong, letting someone convince you that your instincts are the problem, this is your sign. Trust yourself. Investigate. And when you find what you're looking for, don't let anyone convince you that you didn't see what you saw. You deserve better than a life built on lies. You deserve better than being gaslit into ignoring your own reality. And you absolutely deserve better than being told not to worry about the one person you should have been worried about all along. The truth will set you free, but first, it will shatter everything you thought you knew. And that's okay. Because what you build from those pieces will be real, it will be yours, and it will be so much better than living in someone else's beautiful lie.